心臓は動いておりますが、おそらく千年の眠りに。
You'll probably come back again when Toy wants to milk off of your nostalgia. Kodo would prefer this final episode feature a recap of the previous queen's backstory as a reminder for those who might have ditched this show for about a month or so. The show proper then didn't waste any time featuring the Ojamajo nearing the center of the forest of no return or whatever it was called to retrieve the We Stand for Supreme flower, I think that's what it was called. Yeah, okay, maybe we took a slightly too long of a break from this show. I mean, if anything, it does feel like we missed a whole episode because this following sequence felt incredibly rushed, to the point I almost thought we were watching another recap, but nope, it's the actual episode itself. In it, the Ojamajo experienced what I think could be described as their deepest, darkest fears. I mean, you try and tell me a scarier fate than being stuck in a clothing store with a Karen. I'll wait. Okay, they were actually being tested by the forest over their resolve to accomplish their mission and save Hana. Thus, they were being tempted with things like Hazuki wanting to please her mother, again, I don't know why anyone would wish for that, and actually pretty tragically for Aiko, her wanting her parents to get back together. Now, conceptually, this stuff would actually be pretty interesting and would make for a good resolution to each of the Ojamajo story arcs over the course of the season, but again, it was rushed as all hell, as once each scenario was set up, they were resolved just as quickly. Probably the worst case of this was Doremi's, as we only got to see her in bed telling and not showing us what her dream family life would be like. Yeah, kinda see the problem here. Now, to be fair, the fact that they overcame these trials through their determination to save Hana was nice and a good showing of their resolve to not give in to temptation and all that. And in Oppu's case, the visuals of her saying farewell to her father were nicely done. But at the same time, it would have been even better to actually see her talk with an illusion of her father, likewise with Doremi and her family. I don't know, it just all feels so rushed that there should have been at least a whole or at least half of an episode dedicated to the Ojamajo overcoming this stuff. And I know this because Toei Animation would end up pulling this off much better with another series just a few months later. Yep, as you might recall when we reviewed the movie, Doremi Sharp was airing at the same time as the second season of Digimon. And while that show certainly had its issues, I will argue that it had one of the stronger finales of the franchise, especially the penultimate episode, where each of the Digidestined were shown visions of their desired lives, and even briefly gave into them before being snapped out of it by their partners. Even just those little bits of them giving into their temptations made them overcoming them all the more satisfying. Here though, it's really only a minor issue,
barely an inconvenience,
that while I won't say they should have cut it, it overall just felt kinda superfluous. Fortunately, everything else in this episode was really good. For starters, as we kinda mentioned, the visuals here were quite good, especially in getting across the otherworldly and eerie feel of this forest. It wasn't anything outright terrifying, unless your name was Hazuki, but certainly off-putting with how every surface seemed to be made out of water, perhaps to represent the previous queen's warped mind and unstable emotions. And the only slight bit of reprieve from all of this despair and feelings of isolation came from the We Stand with Supreme flower, which the Ojamajo managed to find after a few more traps and pitfalls. They overcame them, but the spirit of the queen wasn't going to give up the flower without a fight, believing that Hana had the power to exorcise her curse. Thus, as her final obstacle, she put up a barrier that if they should touch it, they'd be slapped with a Snow White-esque curse that wouldn't off them, but I guess put them into an unaging sleep, kind of like what happened to with Ash.
No! I slept too long!
Seriously, I can't be the only one who thought that was actually a better ending for Army of Darkness, right? But yeah, like Ash, they'd be stuck in a world where everyone they knew and loved would have passed away long before they even woke up. However, the Ojamajo didn't mind, as at least they'd have each other, and not Hana, who would still be gone by that point, but hey, gotta look on the bright side of life, right? Okay, but seriously, I really liked the sequence, as unlike the last one, it did make sense that we were only getting brief memories of the Ojamajo's time with Hana, as the Queen's curse was taking almost immediate effect each time they tried to bypass the barrier. and each time we were shown emotional and nice reminders of what each of these adoptive mothers had gone through with their little witch infant throughout the season. Really good stuff that does feel like we're getting some proper finality to this series. Anyway, each Ojamajo tried to break through the barrier, sacrificing their witch jewel in the process, and eventually when it came down to Doremi, she, as the main character, managed to get through after her friends had done most of the work. Man, this display of selfless love earned them the flower, and okay, I was kind of kidding with the Cure Supreme stuff. I didn't expect it to kind of turn into Cthulhu-chan. And speaking of Eldritch abominations, they also seem to ward off the Queen's malice for now. Their mission had been accomplished, but at a heavy price. One that even the current Witch Queen wanted a refund for, even being willing to break the rules like her predecessor to wake them up. A good moment for a character who, while certainly not ineffectual, has also been kind of an outsider to the activities of the Ojamajo. However, before anything else, Hana wanted to get a few words after the flower managed to heal her. Kid, this isn't the time to do your Homer Simpson impression. Okay, sorry that I keep making jokes, because again, these are really good emotional scenes, with it not really registering with Hana that her parental guardians were all in millennium comas. However, that was unacceptable for her, and as the previous queen predicted, God Baby has the God Baby. So the Ojamajo woke up from their millennia sleep minus 999 years and 364 days. This of course assured everyone that Hana would eventually dispel the previous queen's curse completely, which might begin the political healing process between the worlds. However, in the process, the Ojamajo did lose their crystals, which of course meant that they couldn't be witches, and yeah, I think Oppu just casually asking what was going to happen next while smiling was her way of saying that she knew what was coming. I mean, they've already done this once because of her, so of course they're gonna do it again. Granted, it was still kind of sad that they had to say farewell to Hana, as at the time of this airing, there was also no guarantee that they'd reunite with her. But with that, this episode and season ended with everyone saying their farewells for now, and occasionally being reminded of Hana while still working at the Mahodo, so yeah, they were definitely gonna get a sequel. And you know, I think this final episode kind of summed up this season perfectly. Really good overall, but with some pretty iffy areas here and there. On the one hand, it had some great visual storytelling through some amazing and emotional sequences, but possibly due to one too many fillers, some parts did feel a little undercooked. I'm not sure if I like this season more or less than the first one, but I can say that even as an obvious middle season, they did their job very admirably. One thing that I noticed about this ending that was neither really all that good or bad for it was how much more of an open ending it was compared to the first season. There, it did feel like the show couldn't do much more with all of the Ojamajo having lost their magic, Majorika closing down the Mahodo, and moving back to the witch's world. With this second season though, Pop was still the witch's apprentice, and Majorika and her shop were still around, so it did feel like there was going to be more, which sure enough there was the following week. That said, it also could have ended here, as saying farewell to Hana, who had been such an important part of the season, did feel very significant. More so, with all of the trials and tribulations the Ojamajo went through in this one. Thus, it did feel like a satisfying ending for Hana, though it also could have done more with the Ojamajo's individual arcs, as much like the Wizard's World stuff, it felt needlessly rushed and in need of at least one more episode to reach a more satisfying conclusion. And in both cases, it could have easily been done if they had just gotten rid of some truly awful filler episodes that took away from a season that I think actually had even higher points than the first, but then I guess they had to balance it out with even lower points. That said, I still did really enjoy this season and this final episode overall because of those still well executed emotional highs. They told the story of 4 young witches trying to protect their daughter very well, whilst also giving us a rather tragic tale of a grieving mother. It was a great conflict that showed two sides of parenting, ending, a hopeful future versus a despairing past. And really, this whole season did an amazing job with that theme that I'm sure really resonated with a lot of younger viewers who watched it originally and grew into parents themselves. Thus, while I won't deny my issues with this finale, which are quite a few, especially when you add in the Wizard World stuff, I also can't deny the amazing work they did with the parenting themes. Children are indeed the future, and whatever fate may await them, we should always see them off with at least a smile until the season gets renewed the next week.
Thank you for watching us finally get back on track after a little bit of a break.
Things are now officially back to normal with our regular release schedule, along with the addition of Blue Archive on Mondays, as we will try to do at least one seasonal anime whenever we can. And of course, in 2 weeks, look forward to seeing these reviews continue with Molto.
And until then, though, for now, my friends, and, hold on. Hello? Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Don't worry, I'll tell them to keep the kid down. By the way, how can you even hear us if you're living in the vacuum of space?